Hey everyone, this is Brian Trauschold, co-founder of Ambition, and I'm joined today by Emily Butler. She is the Director of Sales Recruitment at Betts Recruiting. Emily, how are you today?
I'm good, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate you joining me right now. It's crazy in the world, and we're all dealing with it. You said you're kind of holed up out of town right now. Doing the same thing. I'm holding in our office, actually isolated by myself. But yeah, it's a wild time to be in the world and definitely to be in sales. You guys are a really well-known sales organization, especially in the recruiting space. And we have been talking to folks like yourself who were trying to figure out what are our sales managers doing right now. How are people leading their teams amidst all of chaos and change and challenges to our customer base? So I want to kick it over to you. Emily, what are you doing and what's Betts Recruiting doing right now to adjust and adapt to the new normal as it is right now?
Yeah, it's been tough. We've definitely made a lot of adjustments. I think the first major one was reorganizing a lot of our teams. So on my team in particular, I had two people move to different roles internally that probably wouldn't have happened if this crisis hadn't have happened. But we've also been able to promote two of our leaders to head of West Coast and head of East Coast. And through that, we now have our SF and LA offices rolling up to one leader, and our Chicago, Austin, and New York offices all rolling up to one leader, which has been awesome for me personally because I've gotten a manager through this, but also just
Okay.
which is something I've been wanting for a while. But also just having everyone kind of under one umbrella and just feeling like we're a larger team, since a lot of our teams did get impacted by this size-wise. We've also adjusted our manager comp plans to align more closely with that. So instead of comp plans just being team-based performance, it's now coast-based, which is been a big change. We've also adjusted quotas for ICs. We've taken them down 10%, adjusted metrics to focus more on quality over quantity. The metrics, we're a very, very metrics-based organization, and the metrics we had in place were obviously for a normal world, not a COVID world. So we've had to adjust those.
Right.
And then I think the last big change we've made, exciting change, is we've given everyone equity. So we're building a SaaS platform right now called Connect, or it's fully built. We're selling a SaaS platform now that's to couple our services business, and we've given everyone equity in the business to help fuel that growth.
That's so awesome. And those are like, I think two things that probably any manager can take, and I'm curious how you guys handled it. I don't know that we can all give out equity just as we want, but adjusting the metrics and maybe adjusting the comp plans. It sounds like you guys were pretty proactive in trying to, maybe right size or even like talk about the quality side. Can you talk a little bit about like how the response from your teams were, as well as like your philosophy? Because that makes total sense to me, but I'd love to hear it in your words of like how you guys did it and maybe the reasoning.
Yeah, so I can start with quotas. So the taking them down 10%, obviously people responded pretty well to that, having a reduction in quota. That really came from just seeing that our overall pipeline had dropped dramatically. Obviously a lot of people are going on hiring freezes. So the response there was pretty positive, and we're still trying to get creative to make sure people are paid out as much as possible right now. For metrics, so we look at a lot of metrics, but they're kind of weekly metrics, used to be outbound calls, in-mails, emails, NCMs, which are new candidate meetings, and then send-outs, which are interviews. And we've shifted now, instead of just number of calls, to connected calls, so a lower number to focus more on people you're actually like having meaningful conversations. And then we've taken the send out number down a little bit just to be realistic with how many interviews we're actually scheduling. So people responded well to the metrics. I think the idea of just churning out metrics just to hit metrics right now didn't really resonate. And so shifting that focus to just higher quality has resonated well with the teams.
Yeah, I think another, to add to that point, which I think it's really smart, and like the connects to me is one of the best things. One of the things that we've heard from our own sales development team, which is much more tip of the spear, probably similar to your folks, where it's like their connections are lower, but their conversation time on calls is way up. And so it's like people are willing to, if you get in touch with someone, people are willing to talk. And we're looking at that as like, great, we understand that might not convert to pipeline immediately, but maybe that builds us a stronger relationship for 90 days, 180 days down the road when things are different. So I think that makes a ton of sense. In the pre-call, you mentioned, you guys are focused more on kind of like the coaching and development and maybe, learning your team up a little bit, upskilling them. Can you talk about, what you guys are doing there and what's probably, you said, a challenging time to do new business, but maybe a great time to invest in people?
Yeah. And a lot of the ideas and they're just things we're doing now have been things I've wanted to implement for a while, but especially managing the most transactional team in the company, there's just not always the time. But it became pretty clear early on that the normal ways of motivating people aren't going to work right now, the making money, spiffs, all of that. So we've really shifted towards development and learning. So some things that my team's doing specifically, we started last week doing what we're calling game film. Essentially just everyone brings a call recording to the meeting and I'll randomly pick one or two, and each person on the call is responsible either for positive feedback, areas of improvement, filler words, because that's something I'm working on with these guys. And then how well someone's listening. And then we'll just review them together as a team. And so those have been really, really fun and helpful, I think. It's never fun to really hear yourself on the call. We kind of joke about that, but that's been helpful. I also just have a lot more time as a manager to be on calls, to barge calls or actually be an active participant. So being able to debrief right after those, so just live feedback, I think is happening a lot more. As a company, we're doing more lunch and learn. So Carolyn, our CEO, is really big on these. She'll use her network and just bring in an impressive sales leader or someone from a VC or someone that's gone through a crisis like this to come in and talk to our team about strategies to getting through it. We've also done extra like peer-led trainings, which I think not only motivate the people that are learning from them, but also the peers that they get to train their team members. So there are a few things that we're doing now to just prioritize learning and development.
That's great. I think the collaboration side, I want to hear more about that, because I think, we're doing the same thing. And it's like one of those topics that I feel like all of a sudden is coming up. Maybe it's because leaders have more time. Maybe it's just because you're like super tuned in now. You're like, I've got to be more tapped into the calls and onto the conversations. But, tell me a little bit more about how like your team is collaborating, because it sounds like that's a big emphasis for you. I know it's huge for us right now. Anytime there's like a successful call, we're like, what was the process of identifying that lead? How did we, communicate with them? What was the reason they took a meeting? Are you guys doing similar things, or what's your process like?
Yeah, and so collaboration is huge in our sales process in general. To give a little bit of context, we have recruiters working on the candidate side, managing those relationships, and then they're also managing client relationships. But someone could be working with one account and another recruiter is working with a candidate that's interviewing at that account. So both of those people have to be in constant communication and highly collaborative to get the deal across the finish line. And so where we've seen upped collaboration right now is because some of our more transactional segments that my team, the SDR recruiting team and the AE recruiting team, aren't seeing as much business right now, but our more strategic teams are. We're seeing companies still hiring for those strategic roles. So we had to quickly ramp up our more transactional recruiters into those strategic segments. So they're forced almost to collaborate with teams that they haven't worked with in the past, which is fun for them. They're just getting to know other team members, working on just deals, more complex deals that they wouldn't have gotten to otherwise. But the other big piece for us on why we've seen upped collaboration is sort of what I was touching on earlier, of bringing the bringing the offices under these 2 leaders. So having just 2 cohesive teams right now, all working on different types of roles. I know I'm collaborating more with the managers than I ever have before. I think all of us could attest before it sometimes felt like we were on our own little island running our own little business, which is sometimes fun, but it's a lot more fun to be bouncing ideas off each other and working so much more collaboratively. So that's been a huge win throughout all of this.
I've heard a similar sentiment. I want to get to that with the next question too, but of folks who are like, yeah, we're just in this together, and we're all in the foxhole or whatever metaphor they're using, the same locker room, and it's like there is something to, you know, a crisis, which is terrible, to really drive that unity, and like, man, everyone in the room is now like in the room together, and there's no more of these like silos or isolated teams. Which brings me to maybe the last piece that I'd like to touch on. You mentioned how you guys are focused on culture right now. How do you think the culture is evolving? What do you think is working as far as what you or other folks at Bets are doing to, you know, keep culture as a priority?
Yeah, I think with the increase in collaboration also comes like better culture. So getting to work with people that they normally wouldn't be working so closely with in other offices has definitely led to like better culture.
Yes,
We've also tried to keep things relatively like as normal as possible in terms of how much we're talking to each other and having team meetings. So my team does in the mornings. So right now I have 5 people on my team, so 1 for every day in the week. And everyone has their day that they lead a specific pump up, whether it's a motivational video or a little workout or a question, and everyone goes around and answers it. Some sort of pump up every morning. So we've been doing that to continue our culture. Carolyn, our CEO, has been leading game nights on Thursdays. So we've done trivia, some other like Zoom game I can't remember the name of, but that's been fun. That's just the whole company tuning in like a little bit early on Thursdays.
Is everyone going?
For the most part, the first few weeks, yes. It's kind of trailed off a little bit. It's at 4 on Thursdays, so the East Coast offices are sometimes a little bit tapped out. But and then tonight, actually, so today was actually the day we were supposed to leave for President's Club, which is really sad.
Oh man.
So we're doing a President's Club happy hour, and Carolyn's sending everyone that was going to be going. I think like tequila or something should be getting here at some point. So little
secretly,
things
there's a secret delivery.
Yeah, I don't exactly know what it is, but little things like that I think help a ton. And also, you know, the fun things are great, but I think another thing that I've been focusing on with my team is just being human. And constantly checking in on how they're doing, listening to their feedback. I know it's so stressful for them right now, and being a rep would be really difficult. I mean, being a manager is hard too, but I know they're under a ton of stress. So just checking in and making sure they feel heard and like taken care of right now.
Yeah, that's been a recurring message, and maybe that may be the best part to wrap up on, because, you know, I've heard folks and mentioned on this program before too, but like how managers can really not just be focused on the metric side too, but like get that one layer deeper where it's like, you know, how is you the person doing? How are you doing today, this week? What else is going on? Because it's weird for everyone, and weird in a lot of stressful ways, which are out of the norm. Well, Emily, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you coming on. You know, wishing you the best, and hope you guys continue to build through it. Anything else you want to add before you head out?
No, I think we really covered it. I mean, I could go on and on about all the things that we've done to really adjust to all of this, but those are the main things that I think have been our big takeaways.
Where can people find you? I know that you're on LinkedIn, or where can people find you and connect?
LinkedIn is probably the best place.
Awesome. Well, this is great. Emily, thank you so much for joining. Appreciate the insights. I definitely think the human element and connecting and building people through this is it's the best way. It's important time to increase, I think, the skill level and maybe the loyalty of the folks who are still with you as they get more effective through it. So this has been great. Once again, Brian Troutfield, thanks everyone for joining. Emily Butler from Bets Recruiting, and hope to catch everyone soon.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks.